Good morning, Larry.
Okay, the chair has just said we should start. So Margaret, you want to get us going?
Will get us going. Okay, so this is the November 20th meeting of the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Authority. It's called to order at 8:32 a.m. and I will take the roll. Chair Reed.
Here.
Vice Chair Miley. Commissioner De La Fuente.
Here.
Commissioner Haggerty.
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Linton.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson. Okay, so I show Vice Chair Miley and Commissioner Thompson not in the room. So approval of the minutes is the next item on the agenda.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
Been moved in second. Do you want to call the roll, Margaret?
I will. Chair Reed,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miley. That's right. My apologies. Commissioner De La Fuente.
Yes.
Commissioner Haggerty.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes.
Commissioner Linton.
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
And we move to open forum. Do we have how many minutes for open forum?
2 minutes, Margaret.
Okay. Maggie Gibson, you are first, and I'm going to allow you to talk. Please unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, my name is Maggie Gibson, and I am a 30-year-plus employee at the arena. And several of my colleagues and I will be speaking today, I hope. We are hoping that you can extend Levy's contract so that they can at least cover us on our health care through February 28th, which we earned in the year 2019. And if, barring that, maybe you become our employers or help them out on their monthly fees and dues that they have, even though they have no events, so that they keep us as employees. The other day, Weiling was talking about, our union president was talking about healthcare costs being around $250,000 a month for us. I think there's maybe 130 or 40 of us that are covered, and it costs Levy's maybe $30,000 a month to run the building with no events and everything. So, I think that's a good trade-off, as I would be one of the people covered. But we are pretty precarious right now, my colleagues and I, as there's not a lot of work, and to lose medical coverage in the middle of the pandemic would just be catastrophic for some. People have health issues. They're ongoing treatment right now, and to have it just cut off or have to pay $1,000 or $1,200 in COBRA to keep our coverage, it could put some of us on the street. So we collectively are asking for your help and hope that you can do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Next up is Huber.
Hi, this is Weiling Huber. I'm the president of Unite Here Local 2850. And Maggie is a member of ours. And as she so accurately put, we have 147 of our members out of the 477 who work there who are depending on Levy's for their medical insurance. We fear that if the Levy's contract ends early, that the last 3 months of Levy's obligation before Aramark picks up the health insurance, that they would have an argument that they're not obligated to pay because they've been thrown out of the Coliseum. Of course, our union and our trust fund would do everything in our power to protect those health insurance benefits, but it is risky because I think that they would have, something of an argument to an arbitrator should they lose the contract with the JPA. Like Maggie said, Levy's has told myself and Henry Gardner, who we all talked last week, that their costs are $30,000 per month while they're in the arena with no events and no revenue. And therefore, it is difficult for them to simply extend a contract when they may or may not win a bid that's not actually even going to go out until, it looks like from your agenda, June 30th. So that's 7-8 months from now. And I think that I don't know if the goal is to have a new contractor in place on July 1st or whether you just accept bids with the deadline of June 30th, or whether you're just putting the bid out on June 30th. I'm not sure what that June 30th date signifies, but in any case, it's many, many months from now. And if the Levy's contract simply ends with no replacement, then all the rights of these workers, including potentially their benefits, but certainly 100% sure, we've done a legal analysis, that their right to recall under the Oakland City law will no longer exist. And we also fear that their seniority and their other rights under the contract will also disappear. They would be able to be maintained if there's an incoming food service vendor that picks up all of that, assumes the contract and picks up and employs the employees seamlessly with no gap in between. And we've been through that kind of transition many, many times before. So I'm very confident, and I very much appreciate the members of this commission who have met with myself and our members over the course of the last few weeks. And I know that you have the best interest of our members in mind, but I really urge this board to do something now. There's only 10 days left to prevent a catastrophe. One proposal or one thing I would
Ms.
throw
Huber,
out.
You're much over your 2 minutes. My apologies.
Can I have more time? I think it's important.
Okay, Councilmember Reed, Chair Reed.
Wiley, how much time you need so you can, before you finish?
1 more minute, please.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. So as one idea would be for you to approve today the extension of the Levy's agreement, where you agree to reimburse them for any usual, customary, and reasonable costs. And I would trust Henry to figure out what would be considered reasonable. The second idea would be to instruct one of your other vendors or subcontractors to hire the Levy's employees on December 1st and assume, the rights and benefits that they currently enjoy. The third idea would be for the JPA to hire the 477 employees on December 1st, so that there is a seamless employer-employee relationship and status. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Abraham?
Oh, thank you. And
Margaret, are there any other speakers?
There are two. There's an Abraham and a Preston. So I am asking, there we go.
Thank you.
good morning, everybody. I hope this finds everyone well. I'm addressing, first of all, the item regarding the Oakland Athletics and the Coliseum land. And I would like to offer that as a private citizen rather than speaking from that perspective, not chairman and CEO of Zinni 62 Media. But we don't have a document that instructs our future, let alone where I'm at. Let me explain. When I was economic advisor to Mayor Harris, I walked into Bob Contella's office when he was president. On his wall, there was a map. He could tell me where we were going to be in terms of land use and acquisition 5 years and 10 years out. We haven't had that. So what we need is an effort to structure the organization so that it has a way of thinking in the future and responding, not just the future, but right now in the middle of a pandemic, and that's not there. We also need a structure for governance for anybody that takes over as executive director. That's not truly there. It's here and there. The city official told me yesterday that regarding the property and, for example, the African American organization, which I'm not officially affiliated with, which wants to bring an NFL team back, look, anyone, including myself, can put in a bid to buy the land. There's no website to go to, nothing. We never really did things like that prior to taking over the JPA in 1996, late 96. We need to go back to a structure, a formal structure of governments that's explained to the government, the public, and clear and concise, so it doesn't get us into trouble anymore, let alone look bad on a national perspective, national view. And I'm 3,000 miles ahead of you and 3 hours ahead of you. A lot of people don't think we can get things done. That's got to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
Next speaker, please.
Mr. Preston, please unmute yourself.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Robert Preston, and I've been an employee at the Coliseum complex for over 35 years. And piggybacking on what Wileen and Maggie have stated before, there are a lot of us which depend greatly on the medical benefits from the Coliseum and from the Levy Corporation. Having been there for as many years as we have, we depended on this in our golden years to give us solace as far as this pandemic goes. Also, we are depending on the council to really aid us because we've been there for the JPA in good times and bad times as far as the things that have gone with the Coliseum for renovations, as far as strikes, as far as the players going on strike. Our union has been there for them. And we'd like to have the help of the JPA at this time in aiding us into keeping our medical, keeping our job security, and be able to help us to look forward to working again in times of despair, because we are in a time of despair at this moment. So just piggybacking on what they're saying, we're hoping for the aid of the JPA in order to help us. I appreciate it and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Preston.
We have one final speaker, Tony. Please unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, my name is Tony Evans. I am a current employee at Levy Restaurants. And you guys, I really depend on that job. I'm a senior citizen and I make a pretty decent living working there. And I've been there for a while, along with the healthcare and everything else that my fellow employees did state. We would hope that you would extend the contract for Levy. That is a company we really like working for, and I made a pretty good living there. So I would hope that you really consider that in your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
That is all your speakers.
All right.
So we have the executive director's report.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I have 3 items that I'd like to have us have some discussion regarding. One of them is simply a report. You will recall that we had considerable discussion regarding accommodating the Alameda County request for the accessible voting location. And we worked with the county registrar of voters and the county health department to make that happen. We set out only to accommodate the 4-day accessible voting. During the course of planning for that, the county requested that we expand the event to include COVID-19 testing. And a couple of days or so later, they made another request that we expand further the accommodation to provide for flu shots. And all of that, I would say, all things considered, went swimmingly well. We were expecting a larger turnout for the voting. And I think what happened, don't know for sure, that because of the concern about the timeliness of delivering mail-in ballots. A lot of people took advantage of that and voted early. This was not the only voting location, and people dropped off their ballots elsewhere. And I think that that's all confirmed because the turnout overall for voting, however people voted, by mail, by dropping off their ballots, by using the site, the turnout was pretty heavy. People did avail themselves of the COVID-19 testing, and we got, as I recall, I have to read this now, 1,516 vehicles came through for voting. We had 311 tested for COVID-19, and there were 119 flu shots. So overall, it was a success. Again, it was not the volume that I think that the registrar of voters anticipated, but we were able to capture some of the people who at the site for COVID-19 and for the flu shots. The Oakland Athletics paid all the expenses for the event. They agreed to do that. The charge for doing that was what it cost us to accommodate the event. And we came in under budget by, I'm estimating, about 20%. The A's pledged support, and the amount that we had estimated was about $28,000, and it came in around $22,000, as I recall, with all expenses covered. So overall, I think it was a success, and it worked very, very well. All the parties were very supportive and accommodating. We had no incidents of any kind whatsoever. I'd be happy to respond to any questions or comments you might have about it.
I truly appreciate it. I got my COVID-19 test taken and a flu shot, so it was great.
Good, good.
And dropped off my ballot.
I voted early. I got the COVID-19 testing, and I already got my flu shot.
Yeah.
So when I was there, I took advantage of the services that were being offered, and we encouraged people to do that. But a lot of responses we got, which really was pretty impressive. A lot of people said, "Well, I've already gotten my flu shot," and so that was really good.
I'm just waiting for the COVID-19 shot, Henry.
The vaccine, yes. Well, now since you mentioned that, we have been through this run, so we know how to do it.
I know.
So don't be surprised when I come back and tell you that the county health department has asked us to make the parking lot available for that purpose. And of course, we will do everything we can, should that happen, to accommodate that service. It's very, very worthwhile public service.
Thank you for the word, Henry. That was good. I was told it was very well organized. Appreciate it.
Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments, the next item I want to bring to your attention is the expiration of terms of board members. When I looked at this a few weeks ago, I realized, I hadn't realized it earlier than that we have 6 members whose terms will expire early next year, and early meaning January or February. And 2 terms will expire automatically for the positions that they hold because they're leaving office. And that's Chairperson Reed and Commissioner Haggerty. Because they're leaving office, their terms will automatically expire in January once they're sworn in, once their successors are sworn in. And we will need...
Where are they going, Henry? Where are Larry and Scott going? They're leaving office. So
I understand
they're leaving town?
Well, I understand that they both won the lottery, and they're going to cover this deficit we're dealing with right now.
All right. Okay.
I'll let them speak about what they're planning to do. Mr. Haggerty, where are you going?
Away.
All right.
He said none of our business.
I'm going away, Henry.
You're going away.
I can tell you that if you ever go to New Orleans, I'll be close to you.
All right.
All right.
We speak there every once in a while.
I'm going to Tennessee.
Going to Tennessee. All right. Good things have happened in Tennessee.
He's going to open up a cowboy bar.
Tennessee has 2 great historical black colleges, Fisk University and Meharry Medical School.
There you have it.
So give them some money. Chairperson.
Don't have any. I retired.
Chairperson Reed, where are you going?
Hey, I will be right here in the city of Oakland, helping my daughter to go through her first year of public office.
And congratulations to her for that.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
He's going to Cancun, I know.
No, sir. Be right here, city of Oakland, helping my child.
Now we have,
And for me, the council gets sworn in the first Monday of January, and they will select a new president, and it will be up to the president of the council to designate my replacement.
and I will ask Renee to notify both the president of the council and the chair of the board of supervisors that we will need replacements for our 2 elected officials. And we really need to have those in place for our January meeting and not later than the February meeting. Okay, and I'll ask Renee to make sure that we do that we notify the chairs of the respective boards. We have 4 other terms that will expire in January or February. De La Fuente's term expires in January, and Linton's term expires in February. Miley's term expires in January, and Taylor's term expires in January. So I really need to have these confirmed.
Yeah, well, I'll have the president, this is Nate Miley, I'll have the president of the Board of Supervisors reappoint me post haste. So you don't have to worry about me going off.
Very good. And therefore you will be the chair,
Yeah, I'm upstairs.
right? Yes, he said yes. He will be the chair.
On a meeting.
He's the vice chair. He will become the
You
chair
okay?
starting
You okay?
January. Thank you, Commissioner Miles.
Okay.
No, I'm just
Okay.
keeping my mouth shut. I'm not saying anything.
Stay low, Ignacio. Stay low.
Okay, all right. So we'll be following up on that to make sure that these.
Mr. Whatever you are, Executive Director, Henry?
Yes, sir.
I would just like to say, if you don't have a meeting in December, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure to work with all of you, some longer than shorter, but I just want to say, I vividly remember my first JPA meeting. It was actually at the Board of Supervisors chambers, and I was elected the vice chair. And that day I knew that something was up. To walk in and be nominated as the vice chair right off the bat, and Mary King kind of laughed at me, I knew something was up. So you guys didn't disappoint me.
And Scott, you have been on the board. How long? You go way back.
24 years.
Yeah. Well, I hope we will have a December meeting, and I'm going to be urging that we have one because we have some urgent business items that we need to seal, and I hope we'll be in a position to do that. I'm getting confident that we will. So if Chairperson Reed, if the date we have scheduled doesn't work, I will be working to try to find an alternative date that will work for a majority of the board. So I'm hoping that this will not be your last meeting. Several items just which you obviously cannot take up because they were on open forum do require a response, and I'll be working on one, and that's one of the things I would hope to bring back to you in December, maybe even before that regular scheduled meeting. So people realize that they are being heard and we're trying to be responsive and we can respond to the issues that they raised. So, and because of that, I would like to schedule those items for discussion so that you are in a position to take action. Sorry about that. That was an aside and not on point of what we're talking about right now. Okay, if there are no questions about the terms, then I have gotten over the last, actually many months, a request from at least a couple of members of the board asking that we provide the board with some status update on the negotiations for the sale of the property. As all of you know, but for those who are listening in or public participants, the complex is owned jointly by the city and the county, 50-50. The county has entered into a disposition agreement for the sale to the Oakland A's, properly called, I think, California Way Partners. The city is in negotiations and has not entered into an agreement. So I bring this matter to you for discussion so that to the extent that we can inform you of what some of the salient points are, particularly within the current agreement, the executed agreement between the county and the A's. Obviously, the city is not in a position to comment other than to say, well, actually, let them speak for themselves. But they're not in a position to do the kind of highlights that the county, I think, is prepared to do in terms of what is in the agreement that they have already executed. I think the big question is, for the JPA thinking about the future, there are several things to keep in mind. One is under the bond covenants, the JPA is required to stay in place until all of the bonds are retired. The date for retiring the stadium bonds is February of 2025. So that's a little bit more than 4 years from now. And the date for retiring the arena bonds is 1 year after that, which is February 2026. So we're just right around 5 years from that. So the JPA has to stay in place until those bonds are retired, both of them. There's a further requirement, but it doesn't require the board necessarily to be constituted. We're required to retain records of the JPA's activities for 7 years after the bonds are retired or after the board is dissolved. So with that, I would ask the county council if she is prepared to at least cover the highlights of their agreement, so you know at least what's already in the public record. And that was one of the requests I had, but since it's already in the public record, some of the board members still aren't sure about what some of those key points are. I don't see
I'm here, Mr. Garland.
Oh, she is there, yes.
I will keep this very brief, given the dual roles that I have in advising the county and the JPA. But, on December 23rd of 2019, the county entered into the agreement with Coliseum Way Partners, LLC, for the disposition agreement for the county's interest in the property, as Director Gardner mentioned. That agreement sets forth a purchase price, and it also obligates Coliseum Way Partners to take over what we refer to as the subsidy that the county makes to the JPA for the operational expenses that exceed any revenues and costs. So that financial relief will begin flowing to the county after the due diligence period ends, and that occurred on October 5th of this year, October 5th, 2020. So we have a locked-in deal, and either party has the ability to remove themselves from that deal other than in certain extremely rare instances. The purchase price amount is listed as $85 million. It's in the disposition agreement. It's a public document, but that also includes, again, these unspecified amounts of subsidy costs. From the standpoint of JPA operations, there is one change that will occur from the county's side, and that is the entitlement of Coliseum Way Partners to nominate JPA members for the two non-elected positions that the county has on the JPA. The Board of Supervisors retains its discretion to approve those nominees or not, but that process should be occurring fairly soon. As we move forward, we of course will have our two elected positions that will always remain on the board. To be very clear about the transfer of any interest or title, that cannot and will not occur until the bonds are satisfied in full and all of the other obligations owed by Coliseum Way Partners to the county are satisfied. I'm glad to take questions if there are any.
Yes, go ahead, Ignacio.
Just one question. Did the agreement, any portion of the agreement requires that for the A's to stay in Oakland for the sale to be consummated, or they can leave next year, but they now be out owners of the portion of the Coliseum, or it requires them only to stay in Oakland? Just ask.
Yes, the only obligation related to the Oakland Athletics that is contained in the disposition agreement is that should they leave the county, then the purchase price obligation is accelerated and all $85 million of the balance thereof is immediately due and paid, but we do not transfer title again until the bond debt is satisfied.
But they still own it even if they leave.
They don't own it until we transfer title, but they have to pay us all monies due and payable at that time, and then we do not transfer title until the bond debt is satisfied.
Like to be clear, but at the end of the day, they can leave and they still can be the owners of that property.
Of 50% of the undivided interest.
50%, yeah. Okay. I think that was stupid, but my opinion. Anyway.
And certainly, you know, as a former council member, that our discussions that we have in closed session is just that. It's, we can discuss real estate deals in closed session, and that's where it's at. And that's why neither I or Lauren or Betsy will elaborate on the issue.
Understand, I was referring more, Larry, to the county and obviously the city, right? Because I think that the reality is that I know that it's the ace, but I think that land is more valuable. The whole idea is that the benefit is that they will stay, but I know you know all those things. I'm just raising them.
If I can come in here.
Yeah, Nate?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, you know, the county has been very clear since I was the chair of the JPA, and we had to negotiate with the A's, and we're dealing with the Raiders and the Warriors, that we wanted to get out of the sports business. That was the primary objective, to get out of the sports business. I really wanted to have this come back to the board in open session so we can tighten up that provision about the A's being obligated to stay in Oakland. But unfortunately, the board didn't want to bring it back for open discussion to look at any of the provisions that had been agreed upon. I think when it was approved, was it in June, Andrea?
The agreement was initially approved December the 19th. There was an amendment, I believe, in early June to extend the due diligence period.
Yeah, so once we extended the due diligence period in June, that was the last time we brought this out for public discussion. So I was trying to push to see if we could get it out again, just to tighten up that particular provision, Ignacio. So yeah, I do because that was something I felt very strongly about, that we petitioned them staying in Oakland.
Thank you, Nate.
If I may, can the county also just confirm whether there are any community benefits sort of detailed in terms of expectation around community benefits relative to the sale of the public asset?
There are not.
And Andrea, can you speak without getting into much detail or legalese why that's the case?
I will try to avoid all legalese, but it's my nature. So there are several legal reasons why the county did not choose to address community benefits or public project labor agreements or any kind of issues related to development. And that is because we did not conduct CEQA, because the project that we were approving was merely the sale of the asset, which we identified as remaining the same for the foreseeable future, which we believe did not then trigger CEQA. We were not approving a development. We were not approving anything that would lead to a development.
Are there any other questions? All right.
Larry, can I just say one other thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
Yeah. It's my opinion that with the county doing this, and we'll still be involved with everything, at least for the next 7 years. It's my opinion, by doing this, it really does strengthen the hand of the city. I mean, the city controls land use, anything associated with other conditions. The city can really not nail those down, because I think the one issue that I've always had a concern with and a problem with was trying to deal with the Coliseum and the arena and the whole complex. Having the JPA, having the city and the county as public entities involved was always cumbersome and problematic. So I think by the county getting out of it and looking at our core services and our core responsibilities to vulnerable populations, of which a number of them are located in East Oakland around the Coliseum, we can better focus our time, attention, and resources on that. So I just want to point that out. I know Larry and Lauren are aware of that, and members of the city are aware of that. So just wanted to say that specifically, just to kind of, I've been telling people that, and I didn't want to blindside any of you.
All right, thank you, Nate. All right, we can go into the next item, which is the general manager report.
Do we have Chris or Nicole on?
Hold on, Chris Wright is an attendee. I'll promote him to the list. Okay.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, Chris.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Quick update on the operations side. We are continuing to monitor our 2020 budget, our 2020-2021 budget, to make sure that we stay within the particular guidelines that we've been given. To this stage, everything we see is that we're staying literally just inside of those guardrails. We're working with a number of entertainment companies to try to ramp up our events as quickly as possible. We don't have any further intelligence on that yet. Hopefully the vaccines being implemented will help us get up and running faster. The amount of touring activity that we expect to see as soon as we're able to restart events is going to be pretty strong. There's a lot of demand and supply that are going to be in the market. One other thing I'd like to bring up is that we have a company program called Venue Shield, which has been developed and implemented in a variety of venues around the country that are ASM operated. It's a program that we put in place at the Coliseum to make sure that we're meeting the highest standards for safety and cleanliness with respect to COVID, and so that when we do get back up and running, that we're ready to do that right away.
Is that it, Chris?
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next item is new business.
New business, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an amendment to the advisory services agreement with Bigelow Companies, Inc. to extend the date by which Bigelow must conduct a competitive solicitation process, evaluate bidders, and negotiate final contract terms with the approved bidder for management and operation of food and beverage services at the Oakland Alameda County Arena from November 30, 2020 to June 30, 2021.
Mr. Chair, if I may speak to that item briefly.
Yes, please.
And respond to one of the questions that came up from Wayleen Huber. The Levy contract expires on its own on November this month. I did make a request of Levy to extend the contract until we complete the bid process. Levy declined to do that for reasons that I can come back later and explain when we have our follow-up meeting. But that offer was extended to them. to extend their existing contract until June 30th. The June 30th date is the date that we now anticipate that we will have selected a vendor, and if the arena is open, the vendor would be ready to operate. It's pretty obvious, I think, why we were slowed down. One, the very obvious reason is COVID-19, and because these venues were closed down really all over the country, pretty much. We thought that we would not get really strong responsive bids going out as early as we had originally intended, and that this is probably a better time to do that. And with the projection that we would not be in a position to open up the arena prior to June 30th under any circumstances. So the resolution that is before you is simply to extend the Bigelow contract to June 30th. We expect to be done, we expect the board to have approved whomever is going to be that vendor prior to June 30th, actually. We would expect to have the RFP out probably as early as March, if not sooner than that, and then have the evaluation period, select a vendor, and give the vendor adequate time to set up so that they can begin operations as early as July 1st. The extension of the Bigelow contract has no financial implications whatsoever. It's simply extending the date by which they have to complete their work.
Answer my question before I ask him. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from members of the board?
Yes, I have a question. So as we heard from the public comment, there is concern about the employees who have been longtime employees serving the arena, the Coliseum, and the fact that they would be left without health insurance, without the ability to continue on with whoever is selected. Henry, what's the analysis there? And then are there ways that we can ensure that there is some continuity for these employees?
I cannot speak with authority, but since that issue came up, well, actually, before the issue came up, Bigelow requested a number of documents from us. And one of the documents that he requested was the current union contract. And when I then had a follow-up conversation with him about a variety of issues that he had requested, I said, well, how is that part of the RFP process? Yes. He said that typically those contracts would be included. And now I want to be clear about what I'm saying, that they would be included in any request for proposals so that the responders would see what the current arrangements are. He was less sanguine about whether or not the successful bidder would be bound by those. We're still exploring that. So I do not have a definitive answer to the question of whether or not it is customary that if it's Levy, it's all easy. But I am not sure about whether it's customary that if it's not the existing vendor, that the successor vendor would necessarily be bound by those conditions. I don't know the answer to that definitively.
Thank you for that. And then I think I heard you say that we did extend the offer to Levy to continue in the contract. And so I know that was one of the things that the public speakers were asking is if we could extend that. I guess maybe can you provide some additional detail or clarity on what is possible or what we tried?
I can say this. I did, because nothing was happening, obviously, 13th, as I recall. And we were going through this process. I responded to Levy when they sent what they call a warning letter, saying that they were notifying us, and they had notified the employees that they were planning to lay them off during this period, and was told that Levy had carried this cost since March with no activity, and was not in a position to continue to carry that cost going forward. unless and until they had a contract, unless they were able to actually operate. So for them, it was not just a matter of extending, it was the cost that went with that. I've had a subsequent conversation with another member of the Levy team, and I'm going to still be pursuing that about, and Wei Ling, I think, referred to that, what those costs are. But I know that in that $30,000 that she referenced, health insurance was not part of that. Definitely was not part of that. It was basically their cost of just staying in the arena with no activity.
And my understanding is that they have an obligation to continue paying health insurance until the end of February, based on the prior year's work and accrual of time that the employees have done. And if that obligation, I guess that's one thing, is just confirming that they will continue with that obligation with whatever decision we make. And then there's the question of the what costs, quote unquote costs, are there that they're seeing as, you know, a cost prohibitive in order to move forward, so that we can know what's real and what's not real.
I'm not quite frankly familiar with the details of what they're required to do with respect to the health insurance going forward. I have not had that conversation with Levy, and I've not seen the contract that would answer that question. If that, in fact, is, I assume it's in the contract.
Yeah, my understanding is that it is, and it seems like that's important for us to understand before we allow a termination of the employees.
I will pursue that and try to get a definitive answer to it.
Henry, Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Henry, as I remember, or as I know, that some of the hours are also connected to San Francisco, right, to the stadium in San Francisco, because some of the employees work in both facilities. How does that impact this? I know that both venues are shut down, kind of, but anything you can tell us about that? How does that help or how that hurts if some of the hours that employees work are in San Francisco?
That's an interesting question, and I did raise that with the executive vice president of Levy 6 weeks ago or so, because that's one of the thoughts that occurred to me. So what are you doing at Chase Center? But the answer is they're doing the same thing. But there is a difference here because the Levy contract will expire on November 30th. That contract with Chase Center has not expired. That's ongoing, but they have laid off those employees as well. And in fact, he went further than that. He said that that's just not unique to these two venues, but everywhere they operate.
And we understand that, but also we know that when things react to themselves, when we are free to start having events, they're gonna reopen for basketball. We're not, right? So
good point.
The difference. I think we should really look how. I think Lauren was not specifically what Lauren asked, but I think we got to look at how do we maximize the opportunity for these employees to really not lose their medical insurance, right? Connected to with the RFP, because we don't know. Levy may or may not be the next concessionaire, but it might be others that obviously they're going to be the employees are going to be at a disadvantage in a way, because they're not going to be able to combine hours. So we have to look at all of that, hopefully.
That would be another impact.
Yeah. Thank you, Samuel.
All right. Is there any other questions? Is there a motion?
If no one else has anything else, I do want to just ask for clarity. What are we allowed to do relative to the Levy contract today? Because it doesn't seem like that has been agendized, noted, etc. But yet we have a pending situation in 10 days. So, but if someone could just provide clarity into what is within our ability, giving noticing and other sort of requirements, and I guess if we see this 10-day looming timeline, sort of 10 days upon which the employees may not have a job, like how are we going to respond to that?
I defer to counsel with respect to what it is that you may legally do today based on what's on the agenda. And then I'll come back and respond to the second part of your comment.
This is Bijal Patel. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So Councilmember Taylor, as you noted correctly, the item on the agenda is the Bigelow contract and amendment to the Bigelow contract. So the leave contract has not been agendized. So you could not take any formal action or actually have extended discussion related to the Levy contract. You could informally ask the executive director to ask him to come back for the next meeting with the more formal item for you to consider. You could also consider having an emergency meeting before the end of November if you so inclined to take action prior to the expiration date. But at this point, there's nothing else that you can do other than direct your executive director to do some additional investigations and come back with a proposal.
Council has responded to both parts of your question.
Betsy, did you want to add anything? Betsy?
I just need to find my unmute button. No, I think Bijal covered it appropriately. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think you saw Betsy's name light up because both Bijal and Betsy have Betsy's name.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I couldn't find my link today. So.
We're merging. We're sharing a link.
But let me just at this point to emphasize what council said. You always have the option to call a special meeting. And if that is something you want me to try to put together, I can work with Renee to see how it works.
Yeah, I'm fine. If there are 5 people that want to have a special meeting, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I mean, we need to, if after, I think it's a couple of things that came to a little bit more clear this morning about what the options are. I think Lauren is just worried because obviously the thing was going to start. So I'm open, Mr. Chair. You call a meeting, I'm open to participate. So you call.
I support a special meeting as well.
Ditto from me as well.
I will go ahead and move that we schedule a special meeting before the expiration of this contract so that we can better understand the details of the impact on our employees of proceeding in, I guess, allowing it to expire or options that will allow us to at least preserve the healthcare benefits of the employees through the obligation period of leaving.
Hey, Henry, can you have Renee just to do a check with the members of the board and find out what's a good date for the special meeting?
I will do that, and I'm looking at Friday. Well, that may not be a good day. Anyway, yes, we will do that. I will need a few days to try to put all this together. So, and we have Thanksgiving, but we'll figure it out.
All right. So, is there a motion on what's before us?
Well, as stated, do we need a scheduling motion or no? That's just, Henry, you're going to go do that? So
yeah.
That direction of the chair, I will arrange that, yes.
Perfect. Okay, so then I will make a motion that we extend the Bigelow contract as recommended by the interim executive director in.
I'm no longer the interim. You forced that issue.
In the report. My apologies. I'm reading the legislation.
I'm not offended at the least.
I'm reading the legislation right here.
I like interim because that means I can tell you today, well, you know what? I'm kidding.
All right.
For life.
Hey, is there a second?
Second, Chair.
All right. Would you call the roll?
I will.
Margaret?
Commissioner Reed, excuse me, Chair
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miley.
Aye.
Commissioner De La Fuente,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Haggerty. You're muted. Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Linton,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
passes.
motion carries. All right, that was the last item before us. There's nothing in for discussion in closed session. Correct, Mr. Gardner?
That is correct.
All right. Report from council on closed session when this meeting is now adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Mr. Chair, before we,
Happy Thanksgiving.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Lord.
before we leave, I know that there's been an item that we heard in closed session before that we are awaiting a report out. And so I wanted to just get that discussion. It was the resolution or attempt at resolving
Yes.
the discussion around the, I guess it was the reunion concert, the reunion, Bay Area reunion concert. Can we make sure that that is on the closed session agenda when we meet in December?
Absolutely, it will be.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Henry, can you give me a call?
I'm sorry, who's asking?
Nate Miley.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right. Everyone have a happy Thanksgiving.
Indeed. Thank you. all
Be
very much.
safe.
Happy Thanksgiving and stay safe.
Hey, so folks, you heard the meeting. If you were stuck around for the whole thing, the big takeaway was that the Athletics ownership of their half of the Coliseum land is such that if the A's decided to skip town, it'd still own it. And that there's now some idea that they can somehow undo that contract. And I don't know that they can. I think it would be a bigger mess. It would be an interesting situation to throw at the Athletics to see exactly what their intentions are. If the A's intend to stay in Oakland, then they would have no problem signing some type of supplemental amendment to the agreement that says, hey, yeah, we're going to stay here. And as long as we're here, we own that property, right? But they could, I mean, if they really wanted to be assholes, okay, they could say, hey, you know what? You signed the deal, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. Oh, well. So now the ball's in the A's court. It'll be quite interesting. I'm going to make a follow-up short live stream on that specific topic alone, because that's enormous. Okay. And I'll be right back. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. And that ends this broadcast, but I'm going to start the other one up right behind this one. Okay. I'll see you.